Hello and welcome to another episode of Candice Recommends with myself, Candice Mama. So today we are speaking to international speaker, author, founder, Mr. Alex Granger. I'm so honored to be able to call him a friend, as well as knowing him to be a top consultant to incredible leaders around the world. But without further ado, here's Mr. Alex Granger. Don't know who Alex Granger is. Could you mind just describing yourself very shortly? Who is Alex Granger?
So who is Alex? I like to think of myself as a father of two amazing kids. Nicola, who's tuned in right now and aspiring, well, not aspiring, she's a musician now. My son Cedric, who's also a musician, creates crazy beats, and the husband of one. My wife is also an entrepreneur. She makes these amazing bags. And she's been running what we call the Nubian patch, but it's fast becoming the Amazon forest. Our whole house is getting captured by green stuff all around it. But in terms of my professional work, I am an international speaker. I've spoken in over 21 countries on 4 continents. I'm also an author. I have written 4 books. In fact, my 4th one I had to launch virtually via Zoom due to our current circumstances, and I'm working on my 5th book, which is going to be titled Purposed for Significance. So watch that, but I'm going to wait for the world to open up because I want a real physical launch for that. I'm a lover of life. I enjoy traveling, especially on the African continent. Canada, Brazil, beautiful, but I can tell you there's nothing that moves me emotionally as traveling on the African continent, especially to some of my favorite countries outside of South Africa: Zimbabwe, Rwanda, Kenya. Those 3 really are close to my heart. And of course, I've got offices in Zim and in Rwanda. And I also run a training business called Twice Blue. And 2 years ago, I was running a YouTube channel called Exceptional TV. I think I interviewed you there, and that was really great. We did 21 episodes, and then it had its time, and we moved on. And right now, I run what is called the Curveball, which are weekly nuggets, less than 5 minutes long, on my YouTube channel and on IGTV. And it's really just an alternative way of thinking about some of the challenges you face. So if someone tells you you're going through a lot of stress, there's the general traditional way of handling stress, and then I try to offer an alternative, which I call the curveball. And that's really who I am. I love life. I love music. I love worship. Big worshiper. I enjoy worship music, and man of faith. I believe in God, and that's really who I am in a nutshell.
Amazing. And one thing I always wondered to myself is people like Alex Granger, people like, who come out into the world, inspire and make it their life's work, right? I mean, speakers, writers, whatever field you're in, even musicians, I'd even go as far as saying, are leaders born or are they created? Which one do you think is more likely?
I think a bit of both. So you have born leaders who just seem to have a natural penchant for success as leaders. So let's talk about just people who are born in a particular way. So the word born in the context you're asking is gifted or talented, or just have a natural propensity to do this thing that they're in a particular field in so well. So you could think about soccer star. There are some soccer stars who are just so naturally gifted. Yes. However, even though they are naturally gifted, they still have to wake up and work hard at the craft. So you can be a talented singer, but if you don't warm up your voice, you cause damage to your vocal cords. You can be a talented basketball player. Think about Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, LeBron James. These are very talented individuals, but they have to work out. They have to eat right. So these are, I believe, there are born leaders who just are naturally gifted that way. But it doesn't end there. They make sure that they have an insane work ethic that makes them just operate at another level. And then you have those who are creative. So I know of musicians, I know of soccer stars, some of them my friends as we were growing up, who were not as talented as the ones that were known. So I'll give you an example. In Zim, probably the biggest export from Zim is a guy called Peter Ndlovu. He played for Sundowns even. And he was the first African player to play in the UK. First African player. I grew up with this kid. Knew him personally. His big brother was my best friend. And it's crazy. He was just such a natural talent. Then there was another guy called Benjamin Conjera. And those of you who are from Zim who might be watching this will know, Benjamin ended up being the captain of the Zimbabwe national team. He wasn't a natural talent. Benjamin was hard work. He realized that his best friend, Peter Ndlovu, was so skilled and naturally talented, and he didn't have that natural skill set. But he worked so hard at it that people who ended up knowing him years later thought, geez, this guy is just a born talent. No, I knew this guy. He wasn't. He worked 3 times as hard as Peter to be able to do what Peter could do naturally. You could wake Peter up in the night and say, can you come and score from the corner? And Peter would do it while he's still yawning. And Benjamin practiced 1,000 times to get that right. So to answer your question, I think they are born leaders, but I think leadership is something that you can learn, that you can develop, as in many other faculties, in personal mastery, in a lot of things. And so I believe in both.
Wow. And, so what led you to this particular moment, right? Because I think in many cases, sometimes people will look at someone like an Alex Granger and think to themselves, oh, he's just so lucky. I wish I had that charisma. I wish I could get on stage and just speak to like thousands of people. I wish African leaders were calling me to coach them. And I think there's so much that goes into what you put together. I mean, I've been honored to be at some of your talks, and just the originality and creativity you put into every single one of your keynotes is something that I don't see often. And so for me, it brings me to thinking, what leads you? Like, what has led you? What are the circumstances that led you to being at this moment in time?
So you need to understand the backstory. And the backstory is I grew up in a very poor environment. I didn't know it. I thought we were okay. Because, when you're poor, poverty is relative. You don't know it because you live in a house that when it rains, water seeping through the ceiling, you think, well, because your neighbor's house also has water. If you visit your friend and it rains, the water is also, so you think, okay, this is normal. I didn't know what poverty was. We had toilets on the outside, the long drop toilets. I thought that was normal until I knew better. So my backdrop and my backstory is really one of poverty, but appreciating what I am. And what I had in poverty was a very loving family, very supportive parents, and a very religious upbringing. So,
okay, so we were just saying that you speak about work ethic so much and you exemplify it. But what I really wanted to know is what led you to writing books and, immersing yourself in helping other people? Like, what is it within you that really wants more people to be empowered?
So at a very young age, I started singing in church. And I used to, when you're a kid and you sing in church, everybody like, oh, so sweet, because you're cute, even though you're singing bad. They're like, so cute. And as I grew up and became a teenager and I was singing in church, the ahs were like more meaningful because it's like, oh, geez, man, the guy is actually singing quite nice. And I began to realize that having the privilege of a platform is powerful and influential. And what better space for me to use and leverage to change lives? And then I was in the corporate environment working for a long time. And then one day a company booked me and they paid. And I'm like, whoa, I can get paid. This is amazing. But the fulfillment I got from being on stage and speaking for an hour, I can't even equate it to work, to an 8-to-5 job. And then I realized that when you're on stage for an hour, you really can't delve too deep into the content you're sharing. It's very much, it's like surface material if you think about it. And therefore it calls for more information sharing. And that's what made me decide, I should write books. Because I can now do a talk on the possibility of you, which is one of my books, and really just go through all the chapter headings and give you a bit of a synopsis on this is what this is about. But if you've got the book, you can delve deep. You've got the lessons that you can, work on, and you have the call to action. My other book, Force, also. It's about personal effectiveness. So one of the things that I'm living on now is on my book Force. One of the chapters is overflowing gratitude. And there I use the story of Oprah and how she started the gratitude journal and her life of actually inculcating gratitude in the world and how it's becoming meaningful for me. So this thing hasn't just been a one-way thing. I've been sharing insights with other people, but at the same time, I've been speaking to self, and that's helped me develop as well.
That is so incredibly powerful. And because I'm so afraid of what Instagram's going to do to our feed, what I really want us to get into is, what are some things that, because you did mention a little bit earlier in the conversation that you have reached out to clients to make sure that you're still working, you're still, doing what you love. And I want to know, how are you dealing with lockdown? What are some tips? I mean, a lot of people are worried right now and they're thinking, what's next for me? My life is over. I don't see a tomorrow better than this. And so what would you say to those people? What are some things that you are personally doing, and what's just some advice that you could give people?
Okay, so let's get real. Because I'm a real human being, I'm also affected, and I think a lot of people who will look at you and I, because we have particular platforms, and think, oh, okay, those guys are not affected. We are. My first week on lockdown, I was literally in panic mode. I was having panic attacks. I promise you. My daughter was even worried. She was thinking, should we take her to a doctor? Because I was worried about potential income, about where am I going to make the next buck? How am I going to pay for the bond and the car and blah, blah, blah. And it took me a week to kind of realize, okay, I need to immerse myself in what is. This conversation of people saying there's a new normal coming is not true. The new normal is now. It's happening. This is the new normal. Because COVID is not going away today. It's not going away tomorrow. It's not going away this year. I think it's going to be probably part of our lives for a long time to come. It's going to be like your flu. So we're going to have to navigate around it. And with that comes a lot of challenges about how you do business, how you sustain yourself, how you generate income. So what I've been doing during lockdown, besides trying to self-develop, which is something I've always done. So there's not a new thing to me to, okay, self-development now that I'm on lockdown, because lockdown is not a holiday. You're not home and on vacation. You know what I mean? You should still be going to work, even if it's in your mind. As opposed to physically going to a space. We have weekly sessions even with the church where we know we're not going to a building anymore. Church is who you are. And so what happened was, week number 2, I realized, okay, what am I saying now to my clients, my existing clients during this lockdown? And I developed a 7-minute video on how to cope with stress. And some of the things were like, if you've never managed stress before, or this is a new type of stress that you've never dealt with, one of the things you can do to overcome the stress is to have a routine for your day. And put it in your calendar, or actually write it down and say, okay, I'm going to wake up at 6. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to read for 30 minutes. And then I'm going to go and do half an hour yoga or half an hour exercise or run on the treadmill. Or I rebound. So I've got a trampoline and I do a 2-minute rebound, and it kind of puts my brain in space. If you've seen Tony Robbins, he uses that quite a lot. And then after that, I'll say, okay, after I've worked out, one of the things I do is I do the dishes in my house, so I'll go to the kitchen and I'll do the dishes. It's part of my routine to keep me sane. And after that, I have breakfast and I sit on the couch and then I watch a Nollywood movie, a good Nigerian movie where it's funny. And what it does for me after the workout, it kind of declutters my mind and sets me kind of down. And then I face the reality of, I need to reach out and look for business. And so I do some marketing activities until about lunchtime. And then someone's trying to call me. Sorry about that. And then I have lunch. And then again, I must have a plan for the afternoon. So if you don't have a plan, what happens is you find yourself sitting and like, okay, now what? And the moment that happens, negative thoughts come in.
Oh, yeah.
And when negative thoughts come in, they depress you. And then what do? Social media. You go to Twitter and all you see is COVID-19 is going to kill 40,000 people in South Africa before May next year. And you believe it. There's so much news that is so depressing, even futurists. Absolutely. I'm tired of listening to futurists because most of them are just speaking about, this COVID is with us for the next 20 years. Or everyone's going to get it in South Africa. Cock, man. Like, where's the hope? Where's the encouragement? And so you can do a lot of things. Watch a TED talk, read a book, phone a friend, text a colleague. But if you don't have a daily plan or a routine, you're going to find yourself wanting. And that's where the anxiety and stress pick up. And also eat well, because now you're at home all the time. You're not used to being at home. You go to the office and sometimes you're going to go and have a KFC for lunch. And then now home, there is no KFC for lunch every day. So try and find variety in what you eat. Try and do more vegetables. Try and eat organic food and just keep your metabolism good, because it's not just about your mental state. It's about your physical well-being, your emotional well-being, your spiritual well-being, even your social well-being. Who are you connecting with? A text message is not enough. Pick up the phone, speak to someone, let them hear your voice. And that is therapeutic on its own. So that's what I've been doing.
Wow. And I want to thank you for being vulnerable and honest and saying, you know what, I may have this platform, I may be in this space, I may be in this industry, because I think that's the holy trifecta of shame, right? In terms of you're a figure, you're well known for motivating and inspiring, and you are coming out and you're saying, hey, I feel it too. I'm not immune to all of this going on, right? And I think that alone is going to impact so many people, because people are going to be able to say, you know what, if he can come out and say, look, this is not the greatest time for me, but I'm putting in steps and measures to make sure that my life continues to move. That is so essential. And I want to cover just one more thing, because now you've given us incredible tips, which I'm so grateful for. Just a little bit about your book, Leading Forward, because I think people may want to go out there and get an ebook of it, books, but this one in particular, I want to know a little bit more about.
So thank you so much for that. And it's really a great opportunity also to speak about the book, because it's interesting, because I was writing Purposed for Significance before lockdown happened. And then I suspended that book because I realized in the crisis we are facing, leaders need to be more equipped, because leaders literally hold livelihood of people. Whether it's the driver, the receptionist, or even a general manager, their livelihood is held by leaders, and how leaders conduct themselves and how leaders make their businesses sustainable. So in my mind, when I started writing Leading Forward, I had to ask myself, well, what does it mean to lead forward? And for me, leading forward is really, it's about understanding that life is never in balance. It's that whole thing of equanimity. And that, if you attempt to find equilibrium, you have to have activity. Balance is not a static thing. It's more like we are balancing. We're not balanced. And life is like that, because just when you think you've got your feet on solid ground, something else happens, knocks you off. So leading forward, therefore, is about action. Firstly, it's about leaning inwards to the amazing abilities that you inherently have. And then it's activating various leadership principles within you. Dare I even say, defining new ones in the process, and then leading forward, or leaning out of you and leading forward. And so the book, when I wrote it, I had to ask myself the question, how do I make it a very simple book? It's not a long read. You could literally read this book in a day. It's about 100 pages. It's an ebook, but it really covers 4 fundamental areas. It covers leadership from a business perspective, from a self perspective, from a people perspective, and from a customer perspective. And I had to delve into those. And what I did was, out of those 4 points, I then developed 4 points per chapter to say, okay, let's talk about business. What are the key things around leading forward in business? So it was about inspiring a created vision. It's about navigating change, which we're going through. It's about executing strategy. And it's also about being decisive and making decisions. And then when I talked about self-leadership, it's about our mindsets. What is it that influences how we think? It's the things that we see, the things that we read, it's the people we associate ourselves with. And it's whether you're lazy or you have this insane work ethic, but also it's about resilience through the difficult times. And what we're going through right now requires resilience. But also from a self-leadership point of view, you require integrity, all right? This uprightness about your reputation, your honesty, your moral conduct, your ethics. And ultimately, it's also about communication. Then when I spoke about the people point of view, 4 key points there was about, so how do people then share in that organizational purpose? How do they drive that shared purpose? But also, how do we create a platform for collaboration and co-creation? And right now, in a crisis like this, the leaders do not have all the answers. Because you're now managing remotely, how does collaboration come into it? Because often teamwork is about, put your hand together, 1, 2, 3. There is not together. It's a Zoom together, you know. And now on Zoom we have to raise our hands. It's a different environment. But what it does show us is that people have so much skill and ability, so we can co-create new solutions and create this high-performance environment. But for people, the most important element is empathy. Leaders need to understand that, you know, as much as you require that report to be in by Friday, have you asked the question, hey man, how are you doing? How are you holding up? How are your children learning online? What can we do as an organization to make you feel at ease? And those are the kind of questions leaders need to be asking right now, is that empathetic, really compassionate point of view. And it also means they need to be forgiving of some of the errors. And I think a book like yours would actually help a lot when you talk about forgiveness, because it starts with you, doesn't it? It doesn't start with me. If I want to forgive someone, I must understand forgiveness for myself first. And I think you explained that quite well in your book. And then lastly, it's about our customers. And there it's about just understanding, are we listening to our customers enough? And can we deliver happiness during this time? It's so easy for us as potential suppliers to want to sell, because now we need the money more than ever before. But are you actually touching base with your customer and providing happiness and providing insights and information? Because I can tell you, they're bombarded with so much right now. How are you going to stand out so that they can listen to you and actually give you an opportunity for business? So these are some of the things that I've written in the book. Those 4 key elements: customers, people, self-leadership, and obviously the business. And that's what brought about the book. And now I'm gone back to the book that I had started before, which is really my passion around personal mastery. So that's it in a nutshell. It's available on my website. You can click and purchase, or on all digital platforms. You can get it on Kindle. Yeah, it's all there.
Amazing. So I'll also link your book on my website, so that if anyone stumbles upon the recommended and this interview, they'll be able to purchase it as well. And I think it is such a critical book for today's, you know, environment, because truly none of us know. We don't know, even the futurists, like no one knows how we're going to navigate life from this point forward. And I think the fact that you are focusing on those elements where people are feeling so lost and confused, and they can reach for your book as a lifeline of sorts, I think is brilliant. And I thank you for it. And Docile commented and said your quote, which is, we are balancing, not balanced. And I think that is so profound, you know, like, because I never thought of it that way, but you put it in wording that I think all of us are like, okay, I'm not crazy.
And you know, and it doesn't matter how old you are. Even as a kid, you just don't know that you're constantly balancing. You know, one day you have the flu and you've got sniffles and you're coughing and your throat is sore, and then you go and see a doctor and they give you antibiotics, and then after 3-4 days you're fine. And now because you're fine, now you're playing with your friend outside and then you fall and you got a scratch on your knee. That is balancing. Yeah. Even the window of perfection is so minute, because just in the moment, like I can tell you right now, I feel so good. I'm healthy. I'm even worried that something's about to happen that's gonna be, you know, again, find new balance. But that is life. And the good thing about it is we don't know what is going to affect us negatively. But on the whole, what we can do is have a positive outlook. And I think when a lot of speakers talk, especially motivational speakers, when we talk about being positive all the time, we don't mean that when someone dies, you're like, doesn't matter that they did, life is good. No, it means that I'll still have a positive outlook even in my depression. And it could mean something like, I've lost my dad, I'm really feeling bad, but you know what? I'm grateful that he planted so much in me. That's the positive aspect. What have I learned from this? And that's what I think a lot of speakers, especially motivational speakers who have had a lot of criticism, I still believe in motivation, because it's the key to actually to creating activity. And so we can always find good in bad situations. We're in a pandemic now. It's forcing us to reevaluate relationships, to keep in touch with people. And we can be grateful that we actually can be in a country where the government is taking things seriously. Yeah, they're not perfect, but they've never lived through this either. So who's to say? And I think we must be a voice for the positive and the voice to encourage others, as opposed to the voice that's always looking for the error, the voice that's always looking for the mistake. I don't have time for that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I love that. I love, because it made me think of, is it Winston Churchill, who said, you know, he can only pay attention to those in the ring with him and not those around him, and like spectating, because I think spectators will always have negative things to say, right? They'll always be like, this is going wrong, this is going wrong, you wrong, you wrong. Whereas, you know, when you are someone who's deciding to have a voice of positivity within this time, yes, you'll face criticism, but also, you know, the amount of people who aren't commenting that are affected by your work, who are affected by your outlook. I mean, you'll only find this out later, you know, and I think it's so important for there to be light, for people to shine their light and to, you know, live within that and look for the positivity, as you're saying. And so, Alex, just before Instagram acts crazy again, do you have a song that you'd like to leave us with? Do you have anything you'd like to sing us out with? Because
oh my word, you're catching me off guard.
I'm always asking you to sing, Alex.
Is my daughter online? Because I don't want to embarrass her. Do I have a song? Maybe I'll sing a phrase or a paragraph.
Yes, please.
There's a beautiful song by Beyonce called Bigger. It's not a very popular and well-known song, but the words, and do yourself a favor, Candice, go and look for the song. It's a slow song. It's called Bigger by Beyonce. And in the song, she sings the following words, and I'm going to try and sing it. She says, if you feel insignificant, you better think again. Better wake up, because you're part of something way bigger. You're part of something way bigger. Not just a speck in the universe. Not just some words in a Bible verse. You are the living word. You're part of something way bigger. Bigger than you, bigger than we, bigger than the picture they framed us to see. Legacy. You're part of something way bigger. And there's a line later on, she says, step out your estimate, step into your excellence. That line just and it's a very the words are too many to remember. I see there's someone is saying he sings so nice. Thank you for asking him to sing. Thank you. Thank you for that.
No, because I think, you know, I genuinely, guys, for those of you watching, anytime Alex, like, I look forward to my birthdays because I know he's going to see a singing video, and I'm always like, yes, and I'm through. And in your talks as well,
my daughter gave me
looking for, so you also used to sing, I think it's I Believe I Can Fly, and I think that was the very first
the world's greatest.
The world's greatest, the world's greatest. And I love that. And I mean, I know I'm being greedy now, but would you mind singing us out? I swear I won't ask anything else, Alex. I won't. If you give us a small snippet.
You know, I don't do R. Kelly song anymore because of shenanigans, you know? And but I'll tell you what, I'll do a line of one of the songs I sing in most of my presentations is Something Inside So Strong.
Oh, I love it.
It's a really powerful song. Lyra does it, but it's by a guy called Libra. I think he's got a very difficult surname. He's a North African singer who grew up in the UK. He wrote the song. But the song is so powerful because it talks about we have something within us that's so great. And especially during these times, it's such a powerful song. So maybe I'll close with that.
Please.
The higher you build your barriers, the taller I become. The further you take my rights away, the faster I will run. You can't deny me, you can't decide to turn your face away. No matter, 'cause there's something inside so strong. I know that I can make it. Though you're doing me wrong, so wrong. You thought that my pride was gone. Oh no. There's something inside so strong. Oh, something inside so strong.
Yay!
Yeah.
Mr. Alex Granger, sir, it is an honor to know you. It is an honor to have spoken to you today. Thank you for the gift and the light you shine on the world. And thank you so much for joining me today. I look forward to speaking to you again on this platform with better signal in the future. And I wish you the best during.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the opportunity, Candice. It's always great chatting to you. And it's nice to be on this side of the questions. Appreciate it, and really wish you well and good health and safety during this time.
Thank you so much. Take care of yourself. Bye. And
Bye.
bye to everyone watching. Oh, no, wait, before we go, we got a comment. Oh, I'm crying. Thank you, Mr. Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks for watching, guys. Cheers. Bye.